Resident Evil 7 confused me.
RetroOrDie.
You have a game title based on a very popular game franchise out of the late 90s that delivered a unique, coherent storyline going through Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica X. Then Resident Evil 4 comes out and blows away critics and fans, while at the same time starting a new canon and pretty much erasing what fans knew of the last 9 years of Resident Evil. While 4 was a great game, and one of my personal favorites on the PS2, nobody can deny that Resident Evil was forever changed, and as of the current Resident Evil titles today, has never been the same as its zombie-filled predecessors. Resident Evil 5 comes out, and I'll be honest, I hated its story. And I'll go on record to say, I liked nothing about Resident Evil 5. And, because of this, I didn't buy Resident Evil 6. Because I felt like these new wave of Resident Evil games were not meant for me, or fans of the old Resident Evil games. And it looks like I didn't miss much. By 2016, it had been years since I gave Resident Evil much thought, aside from occasionally replaying Resident Evil 2 from time to time. Once the Resident Evil 7 demo released, I shrugged, but gave it a try, just to say I played it. And to my surprise, but also not surprise, I liked it, but nothing about it spoke Resident Evil.
Oh shit. This is awesome. Oh, Leatherface got him. This is pretty cool. It's not Resident Evil at all, but it's freaking cool. So far, there's nothing Resident Evil about this.
Late 2017, I buy Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition.
What the fuck are you?
Shut up and listen if you want to stay alive. Ethan. You gotta get out of that house.
I played through the entire game, searching how this connected to the Resident Evil series, or how this subplot was tied to the past Resident Evil events. And there were times I was given false hope that this was in fact going to tie into the original titles, such as a random picture of the Arklane Mountains, which is where the first Resident Evil game took place and was on the outskirts of Raccoon City. It was about mid-game when I fully realized what I was playing, which was not a Resident Evil game, but an Evil Dead game, or at least heavily inspired by Evil Dead. Let's show some examples.
Why did you lock me down here? You were supposed to help me.
Hey, we're trying to help. Okay.
You're like something really terrible has happened, and we have to get out of here now, okay?
I don't understand. He's not gonna let you leave. And he's not gonna stop coming at you. Why don't you come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy?
Mia.
Mia's not here, you fucking idiot! Your little sister's being raped in hell!
Wait! Wait!
Please stop! I will rip your soul out, Daddy.
I'll rip your soul out, you pathetic fuck! Fucker! Fucker! I will kill you like I killed your boy!
Ethan, it's okay. It's okay, it's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
You shouldn't have done that! It fucking hurts!
That's not groovy.
Now, while some may think this is a stretch, I feel there are so many examples throughout the game to provide how this was supposed to be its own IP and not intended to be a Resident Evil game at all. But, because Capcom has been underwater with its blatantly bad reputation after these titles, they needed something desperately to pull them back up. And because this game is in fact a good, fun, and overall decent horror game, slapping Resident Evil on it was how they could in fact save what little reputation the franchise had. Now, I did enjoy this game, and I must tell you, if you love horror games, especially modern horror games, this is a must-own. I would say get the Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition because that will give you all the DLC that ever came out for this game included. But I would like to go back how I started this video and tell you how this game confused me. Calling this a Resident Evil game means having it actually make coherent sense with the franchise, not borrowing heavily from other very popular game and movie franchises, such as Evil Dead, Fear, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Having meaningless snippets thrown in the game like the Arc Lane Mountain picture, among other things, is pointless and seems very cheap to fans. And yes, I said I liked this game and did recommend buying it, but these flaws cannot be ignored and used as a throwaway fandom rant like many big reviewers did, such as Angry Joe, which I found his pandering very gutless as a so-called reviewer.
This isn't just another one of the zombie shoot-'em-up games of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Resident Evil Biohazard that really makes it feel both familiar and unique at the same time. It's true survival horror this time. It's ironically an actual Resident Evil, just as the case with the first Spencer Mansion. Those mega fans who are downvoting this game to hell with zeros and ones just make me cringe. They can't stand the idea of not playing without their precious Jill, Chris, Leon, or Wesker.
This game has one of the worst end boss fights I've seen since the original Gears of War. And since ending boss fights is something I've noticed are not easy to nail in games, I'll give it a slight pass for that. Now, this brings me to the ending of the game. What in the fuck is up with the ending in this game? Umbrella randomly shows up with its big plot twist.
I'm Redfield. I'm glad we found you.
Chris Redfield now works for Umbrella. Then, the game ends. So yes, it left me going, what the hell did I just play this whole time? A good game, yes, but a Resident Evil game I spent hours searching for how this was all tied together? A big no. I'll save you the time of playing Not a Hero DLC if you have no desire or have already played it. Not a Hero is Chris Redfield's DLC that continues right after the main game ends. And you get one of the worst jazz hands excuse of why Chris is working for Umbrella.
Chris, we finished analyzing the data we intercepted from Lucas. It's like we thought. The son of a bitch has been sending status reports on Evie to the connections. Find him and bring him in. We can't let this happen again.
Are you sure you just don't want to recruit him?
Chris, we've been over this.
Maybe the BSAA is convinced. If they weren't, I wouldn't be here. But working with Umbrella is going to take some getting used to on my part.
I know it must be difficult, and to tell the truth, a lot of our members have been with us since even before we reincorporated as a PMC. About all that's left now is the name. Let's just focus on the mission, and maybe we can continue this conversation when you get back, okay?
Sure, whatever.
Mind you, this is the corporation he spent the better half of his life trying to take down, and that is responsible for countless deaths of innocent people and his personal friends.
You killed them with your own dirty hands. You son of a bitch!
No.
But hey, at least they finally came clean about his drug usage.
Just hold on, Sheva!
Not a Hero DLC is fun, like the main game, but not much is different except for attacks and some new enemies. The other DLC campaigns are also just as fun, and give more of an insight to the origins and fates of main characters from Resident Evil 7, but not anything tied into the Resident Evil universe. In the end, Resident Evil, like many franchises out there, suffer from identity crisis. When companies see its fanbase get older, and they try to pander to a younger audience. I don't think Resident Evil 7 is a bad game in any way. There are times it feels like a grind, but that can happen when you play a game for 7 hours straight. The story is passable if you're able to purge out of your mind that this is called Resident Evil, or have not played Fear, or have seen the Evil Dead film franchise. I know I'm now considered an old fan to Capcom, and in a way, I'm jaded to my classic Resident Evil. But I can also acknowledge that 7 was a good game overall, but still just so confusing. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like rating and subscribe. I look forward to reading your guys' thoughts on Resident Evil 7 and also memories of classic Resident Evil.
Retro or Die.